Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Here on Spiritual Talk TV, we love to bring different subjects, and tonight is no exception. We have another fantastic guest. But before we get started, if you like our content and you would like to support us, please press the little subscribe button down in the bottom right hand corner. And we thank you for your support. Anyway, on with tonight's guest. Recently, I met a special gentleman at a, I guess I would call it a car show. And this gentleman is or has a wealth of knowledge on a particular subject that we've never covered before. Now, this gentleman is the seeker of truth in all things esoterical and spiritual. He's also, incidentally, a professional flamenco guitarist and a musical composer for over 50 years. But it's his knowledge of the esoteric that we want to tap into tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Wistow. Good evening, John, and welcome to Spiritual Talk.
Good evening, Paul. Thank you very much for having me on. I've been looking forward very much to this evening. This will be my very first spiritual podcast, as it were.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well, we're so thrilled to have you because, like I said, we bumped into each other. We met each other through a mutual friend at an event we was doing. And you blew my mind with the knowledge and the depth on a certain subject matter. And I know we are going to go off and talk about other things that related to that. But I wanted to talk about the Anunnaki. Now, there'll be a lot of people out there, John, that won't even know what the Anunnaki are, who they were. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please, John?
Well, basically, before I get in depth into the subject, I believe millions of years ago, we were visited by what's commonly known in the esoteric world as seeder races. These were races of beings that actually seeded the creatures on the earth. I'm talking about millions of years ago. Even the Egyptian Ennead or Ennead say there were 9 primordial beings, and these 9 primordial beings created apparently 24 seeder races.
Wow.
And the last 2 of those seeder races were the Anunnaki. Now, these beings, very highly evolved from other planets, other galaxies, created modern man, if you like, about roughly 450,000 years ago, give or take a couple of thousand years. There's no exact date for this. So it's that which has always fascinated me because of the Anunnaki's connection to ancient civilizations, because I believe with all my heart that civilizations have come and gone on the planet.
Yeah.
Civilization didn't start about 8, 9, 10,000 years ago, as we are told by mainstream academia, who want to keep the truth of us for some obscure reason. Academia all over the world in every subject don't want people. The reason they don't want people to understand the truth, God's truth, is because they would lose control of their narrative. Anyway, we won't get too far into that sort of side of things. Anyway, that's basically what I wanted to talk about, the Anunnaki. The words, if I can just read what Wikipedia states, which bearing in mind that Wikipedia is an academic viewpoint, they don't really cover it in much depth. They say that the Anunnaki are a group of deities of the ancient Sumerians, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. In the earliest writings about them, which come from the post-Akkadian period, the Anunnaki are deities of the pantheon, descendants of An and Ki, the god of the heavens and the goddess of earth. And their primary function was to decree the fates of humanity, which is correct in that sense. They should not be confused with the Apkallu, who were regarded as legendary figures from ancient Mesopotamia, who were wise sages and guardians of ancestral knowledge. Now, I don't know anything about the Apkallu, so I don't want to confuse the issue here. This is just what Wikipedia says. It doesn't give you much of a real knowledge of who and what they really were. Most of this information about the Anunnaki can be obtained from the ancient Sumerian clay tablets, and this is known as cuneiform, Cuneiform, which is a type of writing formed by wedge-shaped indentations into the clay, which was wet. And these tablets subsequently were then baked until dry, so they can still be read today. There are thousands of them. There's so many in the British Museum and many museums all over the world. One of, if not the most famous, of the translators of cuneiform into the English language was Zechariah Sitchin, who wrote at least 11 detailed books on the arrival and development of their subsequent rule over their dominion on Earth. It's such a vast and comprehensive account that it would take many hours of reading for anyone who would be interested in doing so. So I can recommend those books. And of course, again, academia, mainstream academia, probably poo-pooed a lot of what he came up with. The guy was studying and translating for over 30 years. And he died, I think it was 2010. He was an incredible font of knowledge.
Yeah.
It is said that the Anunnaki came from their home planet, which some people call Nibiru, also I believe called the 10th planet, about 450,000 years ago, in order to mine for gold. This was their main reason for coming here. The gold that they were interested in is not the shiny metallic form that mankind has coveted and mined for thousands of years, but gold in its monoatomic state, known as Orm, A-R-M-E. There's actually a professional company in the world who manufactured this stuff called Ormus, O-R-M-U-S. It's a non-metallic white powder in form, sometimes, funny enough, sometimes known as manna or showbread in the Bible. And you can read passages about the manna. Showbread spelled sometimes S-H-O-W bread or S-H-E-W bread. Now, this white powder form of monatomic gold, this acts as a superconductor, and it emits a white single frequency light. It can heal faulty cells and DNA in the body, and also has anti-gravity properties.
Wow.
It apparently transmutates when heated at between 700 and 800 degrees Celsius. In modern times, secret experiments have been taking place in many different laboratories around the world, including MIT and America, where it causes levitation, and this has been proven. This obviously defies all known laws of physics. In one of these experiments, the white powder completely disappears when heated at this said degree, 700 to 800 degrees centigrade, and wipes it clean. And then after it had disappeared, because it seems to have disappeared into another dimension, which is the fascinating thing, and then only to reappear again in its previous form as a pile of white powder once the heated area had cooled down. So that makes you wonder, about other dimensions and things like that. So it's obviously a very special substance. And I believe on Mount Sinai, thousands of years ago, that the Egyptian priests and pharaohs in the know actually could do this and obtain that substance in a white powder form. The process they did in order to obtain it, I couldn't say. But there's been traces of bowls, if you like, with substance of white powder in found a long time ago during archaeological digs. Yeah. And apparently when you ingest it, so I've been told, that it raises consciousness. It changes your consciousness.
Wow.
And if you see statues of pharaohs standing straight, there are hundreds of them, you'll notice their arms are by their side, holding two rods, one in each hand.
Yes.
And the left foot is always forward. This enhances the rods of special crystal quartz which they're holding. I'm getting off the subject slightly now, but this is all allied to this raising of the consciousness, which the Egyptians were obviously very much into. Now, getting back to what I'm talking about, the Anunnaki.
I was going to say, John, why were they looking for this white gold, the Anunnaki?
Well, they were looking for it because of these properties. There are various things said that they lacked it on their own planet. They really needed it. Whether it was to do with problem with the atmosphere, which this substance could enhance.
Right.
That's a possibility that needs further looking into. They didn't need it because it was a shiny metal subject, a metal form. This is what man has coveted for thousands of years in its shiny metal form, because it's so valuable, and we've got this from thousands of years ago when it was mined, and right up to the present day, it's being coveted because of its intrinsic value, which has been enhanced. But that's to a certain extent is greed and finance. You think that the amount of gold that's been mined is vastly superior than what the authorities are telling you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it been secreted away all over the planet. You know, places like Fort Knox have been emptied of gold. But I don't want to go off the subject.
I have heard that there is actually a gold mine in South Africa that they believe goes back for over 200,000 years. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, I was going to get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just going to talk about the mining operation that took place many thousands of years ago in southern Africa. This subject's best covered by the amazing archaeologist and author Michael Tellinger. He's even got a museum in South Africa about all this. Amazing man, a wonderful spiritual guy who's actually developed a system called One Small Town, which is to bring people together and live in a community, which is, I think, is the future for mankind. But that's, again, a different subject. If you can look him up, incredible, wonderful man. He describes in his many books and lectures an area known as Adam's Calendar. This is a vast area where the remains of over 10 million, mostly round stone structures, can still be found. In indigenous and ancient cuneiform writings, this area was known as Abzu, A-B-Z-U. The Anunnaki deity known as Enki, or also known as Ea, E-A, Enki spelled E-N-K-I, he was the main architect of the operation on Earth for mining of this gold. There are ruins in South America at places like Punku, also very likely remains of Anunnaki civilization and mining, but that's a whole different area which I don't have time to go into today. Great Zimbabwe in southern Africa is purported to be where Enki lived for a time during all these mining operations, and you can see the remains of this simply massive fortress, which is still visited today by people. I mean, the walls, I believe, some of them are 18 foot thick. Whatever incredible advanced technology the Anunnaki possessed, they realized after a considerable time of toil and labor that they were not getting enough gold out of the ground that they needed. So here is where Enki, being a chief scientist and geneticist, decided to clone a species of primitive man on the planet at the time. Along with his sister Ninhursag and other scientists, they created a new worker being by adding to and manipulating the DNA of the primitive hominid, called the Adam. And that makes you wonder, wasn't it? Adam, where does that work?
Absolutely.
This new man would be used as a slave to mine for the gold and would also go on to be advanced even more in consciousness. This era took place approximately 430,000 years ago. The Anunnaki were not just a bunch of powerful people who can fly from planet to planet in their advanced spacecraft, but far more powerful than we can possibly imagine. Here are some interesting quotes from the ancient Sumerian text after translation by Zechariah Sitchin. The earth splitter Enki there established, therewith in the earth a gas to make. Let us create a Lulu, L-U-L-U, a primitive worker, the hardship work to take over. Let the being, the toil of the Anunnaki carry on his back. It continues where they create the Adam or Lulu as a slave. A primitive worker shall be created. Our command will he understand.
Yeah.
Our tools will he handle. To the Anunnaki in the Abzu, relief shall come. So it's quite clear what the translations are saying in ancient Sumerian. As made me laugh. As an aside, the way it's worded, this sounds like Yoda speaking, from Star Wars, talking partly in the past tense. This shall be done, so to speak. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's worded.
There is some, I'm not sure if it's the Dead Sea Scrolls, but there is some scrolls that link to Anunnaki that also have the helix, the sign of the DNA. Is there any truth in that?
That's right. Yeah. Well, if you look at ancient, not these cuneiform tablets, but ancient Sumerian and Assyrian and Babylonian reliefs that are carved, there are several in the British Museum, which is a terrific source. Also, I believe the Fitzwilliam Museum in Cambridge has a lot of artifacts. You can see, in fact, you can see this double helix around stars.
Wow.
or staves, whatever the plurals of that word. This is where our current staff of. Let me just show you something I've got on my mantelpiece. This is a heavy metal object I bought in an antique shop years ago. You see that snake around the staff?
Yes.
That's just one representation of many representations. But the double helix is also, you can see a double snake around the staff.
Can I ask you a question on that, John, so far? So how is this accepted in academic circles in terms of the Anunnaki? And am I right in saying there's even mention of the Anunnaki in the Bible?
Not by name.
Yeah.
But if you read through, it would be in the Old Testament, not the New, I would think. It was quite an interesting source.
Yeah. Do you think there's a correlation between, these tall men with wings and what we perceive to be angels?
That's right, yeah. I mean, the Book of Enoch. I mean, the books that were left out of the Bible are the most interesting ones. I think there are at least 2 books of Enoch that talk about the Watchers, the Nephilim. The Nephilim. Now, that's an interesting word because sometimes it's translated as God in the Bible. But of course, if you understand any Hebrew, Nephilim is plural, gods. And in fact, in some of the phrases in the Bible, in the New Testament, it refers to gods,
Yeah.
the Nephilim. It's quite interesting. You have to delve deep and decipher what they're trying to say. Or Genesis it talks about how the gods, I can't remember the exact phraseology. They saw the daughters of men were fair and wed into them in the first few phrases in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think getting away from this slightly for a moment, the Nephilim, I think the Anunnaki, I'm not sure if the Anunnaki created the Nephilim, and because of the messing about with Earth women, or primitive Earth women, again, messing about with the DNA, and these experiments went wrong because the result were giants. And giants are throughout every culture on the planet. And this is where mainstream academia has covered up everything. Especially in North America, there are burial mounds all over North America. Indigenous Indian tribes talk about their ancestors coming from the stars and about giants. And if you look at newspapers, American newspapers, with photographs from late 19th, early 20th century,
Yeah.
you can actually see photographs of giant skeletons.
Yeah.
Which the Smithsonian, that's the word I was trying to think of, the Institute, they've covered everything up. Again, it's all about control and power.
Whether that comes from fear, John, it generally does, doesn't it? When they try to change things.
It's definitely fear.
But there is a level of we should really not be in a feared place. This stuff, this is not something.
Well, this is what's been promoted for several years as fear porn, if you like.
Yeah.
We've only got to look at the last 4 years, haven't we, without getting into that subject.
Yeah,
we're still slaves to the system. I mean, slavery has never ended. It goes back to Babylonian money.
Yeah.
The system today is a result of that, and certain bloodline families, which again is a whole vast subject in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which we could probably spend about 4 hours talking about.
Sorry, John, getting back to the Anunnaki, though, what happened to them?
Well, I was going to get into that here after the quotes from those cuneiform texts. I believe Enki loved his creations, this new mankind that he created, that he manipulated. And he truly wanted to save mankind so that it survived and prospered.
Yeah.
Here is where he advanced the consciousness of them by changing and manipulating their DNA. Scientists today know that our DNA was dramatically altered several thousand years ago and is rapidly advancing even now. Enki went against the wishes of a lot of the Anunnaki, especially his half-brother Enlil. It was Enlil who, being far more warlike in nature, wanted to wipe the earth of all these newly made creations. And as a result of these differences, unresolved conflicts took place with different wars happening on the earth. You can go back into all the myths and cultures from every continent, and it will talk about warfare, especially the Indian Vedas, where they even talk about Vimanas, When Sanskrit was first translated in the 1800s into English, it talks about flying machines, aerial warfare, death rays, and the Vimanas, Vimanas. These were flying machines. And there's even a place in India which you can go and see today, which there are still traces of radioactivity.
No.
Because vitrified glass is still found there today, which apparently can only be caused by incredible temperatures from nuclear explosion. So things definitely happened in the past with wars.
Yeah.
It's a fact that many modern scholars today propose that the biblical story of the flood, with Noah and the ark, this could be an adaptation of older Mesopotamian flood myths.
Yeah.
And I believe there are flood myths in most cultures all over the earth.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we think about it, the Sumerian civilization made incredible advancements in a relatively short period of time. For example, it was the first written language, cuneiform, and their advancements possibly enacted the unleashing of genetic potential implanted by the Anunnaki. It's undeniable that the Sumerians' advancements have resonated throughout the corridors of time, impacting on the trajectory of human civilization today.
Yeah.
The Sumerians being the descendants of the Anunnaki, obviously. There came a time when the Anunnaki decided to leave Earth, or Terra, as Elena Denan says that they now call it. We'll get on to Elena Denan later. This departure, however, was not abrupt. It's believed that Enki, or Ea, as is more commonly known by Elena Denan, humanity's genetic architect, he played a crucial role in preparing humanity for this transition. He wanted to make sure that mankind was equipped with the necessary knowledge and tools to thrive in the Anunnaki's absence. Some scholars propose that this included advanced knowledge in agriculture, social organization, possibly even technology and medicine. Furthermore, some interpretations suggest that Enki ensured the activation of latent genetic potential within humans before their great departure. These enhancements, it is conjectured, might have been encoded in the human genome and programmed to manifest over many generations, perhaps explaining the sudden bursts of advancements in various civilizations today. These interpretations, though speculative, posit an intriguing perspective about Enki's final act. Whether through imparting knowledge or activating our latent potential, it's believed that Enki ensured humanity could stand on its own, prosper and progress, forever shaping the course of human civilization. So in other words, it's saying that our DNA is evolving. I mean, in fact, scientists know this now. If they look at DNA from 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago, they can see that things are changing. So many strands of DNA, aren't there? Without getting too technical. Yeah. They believe in science that a lot of these strands of DNA are called junk DNA. There's no such thing as junk DNA. This is DNA that fulfills a purpose, which will be evolving and I believe will enhance our consciousness and turn us into superhuman beings, to which God is actually wishing us to evolve too. Yeah, I believe that we should continue to research our ancient past, not just in the land of Sumer, with its narratives etched in clay tablets. There are so many other countries and continents which are even today giving up their ancient past with the wonderful advancements in archaeology and technology.
Yeah.
LiDAR being just one of these many methods. You can actually send a camera or a plane up over any area, and using LiDAR photography, it can look through, for example, it's been used in Egypt. You can look through the sand and see buildings underneath. It's very useful where there is jungle. It can actually look through because of the rays that it's sending down and receiving back. LiDAR technology is so far advanced, you can see so much more now. It's an incredible technology. And it's been used extensively for many years now. Yeah, I believe that actually, going back to Nibiru, which was I talked about earlier, that they thought was a planet. I don't think Nibiru is a planet or Planet X, as Sitchin thought. I think it's actually a giant mothership of the Galactic Federation or Confederation.
Okay.
Which is I think it's parked all around our planet and in our solar system. There's a lot of knowledge about the SSP in America, or Secret Space Force. It's also known as Solar Warden.
I've seen a lot of this stuff and people talking about that secret space program on places like Gaia TV. There's been quite a lot of people talking about the secret space program.
Yeah, well, there's what they call the Galactic Federation or Confederation. Now, if you talk about the Galactic Federation, I believe it's more of a militaristic side of things, more about looking after and controlling. Where the Confederation is much bigger and vaster. Because federation, really, it means many states, doesn't it, in its true sense? Yeah. That's why in America you have the Federation of American States. But the Confederation is a much more bigger concept, which involves many more civilizations.
Yeah.
Given to understand that there's a hub, this on Ganymede, which is a Jupiter, a moon of Jupiter, where there's a lot of activity going on today. And a lot of our, how shall I say, government officials from all over the world are in on this. There's a lot of not just mining going on the moon and stuff going on Mars. People think, Star Wars. Actually, think of the Star Wars. What was it? Gene Roddenberry? What's his name? Yeah, Star Trek.
Yeah,
not Star Wars.
Yeah.
He actually was in on a big meeting many years ago, where they told him about all this secret space program, and he was allowed to, if you like, develop this science fiction series, and a lot of what you see in that series is actually up there, especially those giant ships.
Wow!
And they're going through portals. So I mean, to get from one system to another, it's instantaneous. You go through a wormhole, which is probably what really happens. But Trump developed this. Only knows about this, but he actually, for the first time in American history, developed a new arm of the military called Space Force, didn't he? Because he knew what was coming and what's necessary. And people are saying, well, why hasn't disclosure come about? Because mankind, in its present state of fear and its present state of control by the cabal, deep state, if you like, is not ready because we're not spiritually evolved enough. But it's changing. It's changing rapidly. Because the deep state is gradually being taken down now, I believe. And then the disclosure will come from off-world civilization, the people that are here providing protection for us. But because if they came down now, there'd probably be mass panic, or people wouldn't believe. They'd say AI. And the deep state would actually create a fake alien invasion. They've got the ability to project holograms into the sky now. And it would be chaos. It really would. I firmly believe that Trump will come back and he's going to change things for the better. But that's, again, I don't want to get too diplomatic.
Yeah, or controversial. Yeah. I mean, you could argue that's what happened to Trump recently, but that is a very controversial subject.
Well, that was an act. I believe that was an act of God. God saved him.
Well, it's interesting. A friend of mine sent me a picture of the flag, Stars and Stripes. And when you look at it, it actually looks like...
Beforehand, it was in the form of an angel.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah, and I've got the picture.
Before the event started. Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, is it? Well,
it's not coincidence.
Well, my head's a bit blown now. So Anunnaki, are the Anunnaki here? But they are... are the Anunnaki perceived as angels rather than who they truly are? Are angels really angels, or are they advanced beings?
No, Anunnaki, angels are a separate species, I believe. They're very highly evolved spiritual beings that have their own...
but John, the reason why I say this because, they called the first specimen when they did the DNA of the Anunnaki Adam. So who's to say that the angels are a kind of forerunner with men that are very tall, with large wings? It's too much of a coincidence for me.
Yeah, I think this is because mankind, especially thousands of years ago, when obviously these extraterrestrial civilizations were coming to the Earth. I mean, you've got Atlantis and Lemuria and ancient Egypt, which is many thousands of years older than what academia is saying.
Yeah.
The only way that they could describe flying beings, if you like, would be in the terminology that they had at the time. So
Yeah.
they wouldn't have had technical words for spacecraft. They would,
Yeah.
and then this changed over many, many years, didn't it, to depicting a flying machine or a being that could fly with wings, because they knew that birds could fly. So I think,
Yeah.
and angels today, I think, that appear to mankind, which they, I believe, do at certain times, show themselves as winged humans, because they know that mankind wouldn't be frightened and would realize that that's, you see what I'm getting at? That's what they think they should be.
But because you could arguably say, well, if Adam was made to be a slave to serve the Anunnaki, there was a level of worship from the human to the Anunnaki.
Yeah, that's right. They worshipped them as gods. They did. They worshipped the Anunnaki as gods because, and every continent, if you like, every country that had these visitors from different civilizations. I mean, they're obviously so far advanced compared to the indigenous race that to them they were gods. A Viracocha, for example, is a white god that they thought was a deity in South America because he appeared, and that's a whole different subject. When you think some of those H blocks at Pumapunku, made out of concrete, which could only have been created by advanced technology. They couldn't possibly have used stone chisels. I mean, it's like, and it makes me laugh when I see a lot of the stuff in Egypt today that they say were used by copper chisels.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's just unbelievable.
There's
no way.
Yeah,
No
way. No way.
So I mean, the Great Pyramid alone has got such incredible properties.
So coming back to Anunnaki then, what was the end story for them, John? Why did they go home? What did they do?
Well, I think they're whether they actually went back to their own planet, wherever that was, I'm not sure what that was. I think Nibiru is a giant mothership. I mean, some of these motherships, I believe, are the size of moons, small planets even. So maybe they are planetoids which have been hollowed out and used as spacecraft. I mean, the advances. I mean, you think these guys are millions of years advanced than what we know today. So what they could do even millions of years ago, you can't even comprehend. So whether they use this for their own planet, who knows? But because Enki loved his creation so much. Oh, and another thing I discovered is that the Anunnaki didn't realize that when they enhanced the DNA of mankind, they didn't realize it had already been manipulated by previous cedar races. So it had already been enhanced. So it wasn't just the first enhancement of primitive man, Neanderthal, if you like. I mean, even pre-Neanderthal. The advancement in consciousness was far more than they predicted. And this is why mankind has come on in leaps and bounds in the last couple of 100,000 years, if you like.
Yeah.
And I think the Anunnaki went away, and because of the evil entities that have been around Earth for a very long time, some people call them the reptilians, and this is getting into the cabal, the deep state, who are just minions of the reptilians, who are, again, just minions of evil entities, dark entities who have been controlling mankind for many, many thousands of years. A lot of this dark web, if you like, I'm not talking about the internet, a lot of this dark web has been cleared. The dark matrix has been removed from Earth.
Yeah.
And we are getting ready now to evolve, to actually go into not just the fourth, but the fifth dimension. In every religion, it's, the Christians talk about the rapture. It's not just a great awakening. There is a great awakening. It's happening now. But this is, some people say, a solar flash, where our bodies are going to materialize in a different way and our whole DNA is going to evolve, and we'll end up with crystalline bodies, not carbon-based bodies. And our past lives will be remembered in an instant, and we'll be able to realize what our true purpose is and our godlike capabilities. I mean, if you look at what Jesus said, all these things I do, you will be greater and do these greater than I, something like that. I'm sure a lot of people can remember that quote from the Bible. Jesus was an incredibly advanced teacher who was of what I believe is the seventh ray.
Yeah.
That's another subject, again, about different rays of creation.
Yeah.
Who I think is even now known as Sananda, another word for him. I mean, the trouble is I've gone into so many different subjects, and if you're not careful, like myself, you go down so many rabbit holes, and you come up with a bit of knowledge about this, a bit of knowledge about that, and you don't really have a full understanding of that one subject. But esotericism, the esoteric world, as you know, is so vast.
It is.
And just to be able to go into one subject like the Anunnaki and try and get all the different pieces of the jigsaw together of what is truth, because this is what we're all getting to. I think the answer is to look within. The trouble is we're looking without for the answers. God is within.
Absolutely.
He's everywhere. He is everything. You know, without getting too religious, I'm not particularly religious, but I believe in true spirituality, which is that we are God. We are creators. God created us in his image, not in the sense that he was a human being. He was far greater than that. We are in his image, in his consciousness and ability to be co-creators. If we realized half of our ability, we could change the world in an instant. We really could. So, you know, without getting onto a high pedestal and preaching.
That would also take a mass awakening. And it also takes an element of self-mastery for an individual to be able to be awakened. You know, just the concept of unconditional love, John, is a really difficult subject. It's not, you know, what is the biggest love that we understand as unconditional? Probably that of when a newborn baby is born, it's unconditional.
Exactly, yeah. And I think a newborn baby it's programmed from birth, isn't it?
Yeah. There's and it's interesting when you see, but that, I mean, in terms of the human condition and the karma that we get involved in going through life and the ego, there is an element that we have to, well, we keep repeating the same cycles, but even though we've then potentially got alien DNA, this is the thing, there'll be a lot of people out there that will believe in God, that believe in God. Why would God allow that to happen?
Yeah, because they're not awake or evolved enough to understand the bigger picture, because they're programmed by their peers, by society, education, and religion has programmed people. All religions have programmed people, unfortunately, because I'm not anti-religion. It's got its incredible spiritual side, but it's also got its controlling side, which, if you think just a few hundred years ago, people weren't allowed to own a Bible. They were kept purposely illiterate. The only knowledge they had was from the preacher in the pulpit, who, according to what the preacher said, that was their worldview.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is still going on today. But the world is waking up. I think it's happening a lot quicker than what they want us to believe.
Yeah.
And you can't stop. And I think the internet, although it's got a lot of, you have to be careful what you see and perceive on there, it's the unlocking of the seventh seal or something like that, because you cannot stop knowledge now.
Yes.
You have to discern. You have to go within your gut instincts, your God instincts, if you like, and discern what you believe is true. If you're not sure if it's true or not, just go within and ask yourself, ask God, what you feel, is this correct or not? And normally you'll be given the answer, and it will be correct. I think within the next couple of years, there's going to be an incredible change in evolution. And I think we're going to go into the fifth dimension. And the ones are going to be left behind are the people that cannot accept this change in their hearts. They're going to be left behind in the 3D world. Doesn't mean to say they're lost. No, they'll always be given a chance to still evolve. Because once you go into the fifth dimension, you'll know everything about your past lives and your purpose. And I think it's going to be an incredible time. I really do. That will be the end of karma. Doesn't mean to say we'll never go on and still make mistakes. Yeah, but not in the same way. Karma, what is karma? We keep coming back. Earth is a lesson. And we keep coming here. Our karma is because we haven't, or we need to learn more lessons. Doesn't mean to say that if you murdered someone in the past life, you're going to get murdered in this life. No, it doesn't mean that at all. We're going to be put in a situation, this is what I believe, where we have a chance to learn and evolve. Do you remember, we were talking about sport, you and I earlier. Do you remember Glenn Hoddle?
Yes.
When obviously he had a belief about reincarnation, and he was slated, wasn't he, for that bit about reincarnation that he was talking about?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, anything that
Poor
was...
man, you know?
And that was only, 15 years ago, poor Glenn Hoddle got slated.
Yeah.
They said he was a spiritual man.
I thought he was a good guy. He's the guy from Jersey, footballer.
Matt Letizia.
No. Letizia, yeah, he's brilliant. He's been on a lot of truth programs and channels. And have you noticed, thank God for Elon Musk, who's opened up Twitter or X now, so you won't be cancelled for your beliefs. If you go against the narrative today, they will try and cancel you.
Yeah.
And I believe this is what's going on with Trump. I mean, God protected Trump. Whatever your politics is going to change. There'll be no left and right. I think when Trump gets back in, he would stop all wars like he did when there was no wars when he was president before. He's not a saint. He's made mistakes. Like how any of us can say we haven't done bad things in the past. You show me a man that hasn't done something wrong. There is no man on the planet. Trump was picked by the military he was a very wealthy man, as everyone knows. He had a wonderful life, golf courses, fabulous family and wife. He didn't need this.
No.
He was actually taken by the military before the 2016 election, and he was shown what's really been going on behind the scenes with all the evil that's going on, the financial system, the total corruption. In his heart, he realized that they said to him, we need somebody that's got their own money, that won't be corrupted financially. Some of these leaders over the years are very, very dark without getting into too much stuff.
You're going to get me banned, John.
It's such a big subject, Paul, and fascinating. Really is.
Absolutely. And it's such a shame because so much information are coming out now about ancient civilizations, people that have gone before, Atlantis. I think it was in Turkey they've discovered an ancient civilization that goes back 35,000 years, way beyond ancient Egypt.
So that is before Göbekli Tepe, which is 13,000 years.
Yeah, and Sphinx now, they believe they've actually dated them wrong. They go back at least 30 to 50,000 years. And as technology grows, I believe that will be. I mean, they're now talking about the evolution of the species, the Darwinian theory. In 2016, the institute, I forget which institute it was, that met in London in 2016 and pretty much said the Darwinian theory of evolution was dead in the water. There just was not enough evidence.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense to say that man evolved from ape in stages. I mean, it's absolute nonsense. Yeah. I mean, they're actually discovering different species of hominid, haven't they?
Yeah.
Look in was it Indonesia, where they nicknamed them the hobbits because they're a new type of species that were 3 or 4 foot tall. Denisovan man in the cave in, I think, Russia or something like that, which goes back thousands of years. I mean, there's so many examples.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking earlier, Paul, about the mining in South Africa. They've realised that the mines that they've been using recently, they're only repurposing them. These mines were made 50 or even 100, 200,000 years ago. They were originally tunnelled. Yeah. So the technology's been there in the past.
Yeah.
But I believe, getting back to the Anunnaki, I was going to talk about Elena Danaan. She is a wonderful lady, archaeologist, truth seeker, and actually a diplomat for the Galactic Federation. She has a weekly podcast. Elena Danaan, ElenaDanaan.org. Wonderful, wonderful lady. That word Danaan even goes back to the ancient Druids in Ireland. There's 2 other Danaan. another piece of the jigsaw puzzle, because apparently Egyptians went to Ireland a long, long time ago. I mean, Mary Magdalene going to France and then possibly to Ireland. I mean, all these threads of a giant jigsaw puzzle. One day, whether we have to wait till we pass over before we know all this, we've got a hell of a lot to look forward to discovering all the real truth about our planet, which is far greater than we can ever imagine.
Yeah.
And I'm quite excited about the truth.
Yeah.
And about how mankind is evolving now, because it's speeding up.
Yeah.
You think of the inventions in the last 20, 30, 50 years.
Yeah.
And this is the stuff that is only what they're allowing us to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And AI.
Nikola Tesla
Yeah.
transmit electricity to 120 years ago without wires. It's quite extraordinary. But his banker and back at the time, J.P. Morgan, realized that Tesla wanted to give this to mankind. And so he pulled away. So he had to fund himself, and his many inventions are quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
But when he died, the CIA went in and grabbed suitcases full of his papers. And so anti-gravity craft is actually around today. A lot of UFOs, sometimes a lot of people see around the planet, are actually military anti-gravity craft. Because even today you can see US Navy patents of anti-gravity. It's in the public domain.
Wow.
So you can imagine this stuff that's flying around now that they're showing you. I mean, it's old stuff. It's so far advanced now. What's really up there? Solar Warden is this organization, what they call the SSP, the Secret Space Program, of what's really going on. Medbeds. Now, there's another subject. This is to do with medical beds, which I think have been manufactured, and any known disease or complaint in a human being, you go on one of these med beds and it will cure you within a certain amount of time, completely 100%. Your body will be restored, and it can even regress you age-wise. But these are supposed to be coming out to mankind when we're ready. So I think we've got to up our spirituality in the sense of going within and realizing that all this strife and stress and war is all. It's the end times are what we're in now, I believe. Kali Yuga. It's not going to end in a catastrophe or nuclear war, because there's not going to be a nuclear war. It won't be allowed to be happening. It won't allow it to be happening because the Galactic Federation, the Anunnaki who are part of this now, will definitely won't allow it to happen. In fact, it was proven some while ago that these nuclear silos in America, there was this craft appeared above them and shone down something, and all these silos with the nuclear warheads inside, they all shut down, one after the other. And they were showing the armed forces at the time that whatever you will do won't be allowed to happen. And I truly believe this, that it just wouldn't be allowed. What's the point of mankind developing now for it all to just blow up?
Yeah.
There is no point. I think that we're on the verge of becoming a galactic world. They want us to become advanced enough that we can take our place in amongst the galactic worlds, the galactic civilizations, which there are thousands of. You think the number of galaxies in the universe? There are billions of galaxies. Our own galaxy, the Milky Way, there are billions of solar systems, star systems in our own galaxy. So just how many millions or billions of planets are there with possible life forms?
Yeah.
It's the numbers, you can't even crunch the numbers. It's just endless.
Yeah.
And I think life it's a giant circle. I think universe comes and it goes, it comes and it goes. And this is God expanding and contracting, allowing itself, if you like to call God itself, to experience and evolve. And love is the actual essence of what the universal is. Universal love, unconditional love. And if only we could realize that, we could change the world in an instant. But it's getting that way. It is really getting that way. Yeah. And unfortunately, there are still pockets of evil, if you like, that are being cleansed now. Deep underground military bases are being taken out all the time.
Wow.
So-called earthquakes that have happened in the last couple of years. When scientists have analysed the waves, the afterwaves, they've realised that these are not natural earthquakes. These were being taken out by certain bombs that the Alliance, if you like, the good guys have. But it's still the deep state controls the mainstream media to a certain extent. That's why we are so brainwashed.
Yeah.
We're still brainwashed today as to what's really going on. But that's breaking. That is breaking. It's disclosure is coming through drip by drip by drip.
Yeah.
The truth is gradually getting through.
Yeah, yeah. And we do live in unique times. John, we've been going for well over an hour now.
Have we really?
We have.
I thought it'd be about 15 minutes.
No, we've been going for well over an hour. We just want to thank you for your time, for coming in tonight and discussing the Anunnaki and pretty much a lot of esoterical subject matter that kind of leads into what's going on now. So, watch
yeah,
this
it's
space.
all linked.
Yeah, yeah,
It is, Walt. It's all linked. And that's the great thing is discernment and putting the pieces of the jigsaw together, which I think I can thank my original reading of Eric von Däniken, Chariots of the Gods, which was talking about advanced civilizations. That's what started it off for me when I was about 18. And I saw him live in London. He gave a talk in Regent Street in some big hall. I remember that when I was very young. It's come on in leaps and bounds. He's still around today.
Really?
And we have a lot to thank him for. Oh, he's still around. Yeah, he's still talking today. Ancient Aliens, the channel on Sky Documentaries. It's got a lot of good stuff.
Or Gaia as well. Do a lot of stuff on what we've been talking about.
Incredible. Yeah.
There's
a lot of truth seekers out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth out there. So, well, anyway, thank you, Paul, for allowing me on. God bless you, mate. And keep a troshing ball, as they say up in Norfolk, I believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyway, John, good luck for the season. I'm not going to tell people who you support, but good luck for the season.
I don't mind.
Yeah, I would say you're an Arsenal
team in the.
Well, what you mean, Arsenal?
Hey? No. My wife supports Arsenal. I'm a Millwall supporter for my sins.
Well, we wish Millwall. Thank you so much for coming in.
And you, Paul. God bless, mate. And we'll speak again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care, John.